stands for. They ran out of money, as you well know, a while back, and last week on Monday they were supposed to open this program back up, but it is not yet open. But let me explain to you what you need when it does open. You will need to know what your sales or income level, gross income for 2019, your cost of goods sold for 2019, all the contact information for the business and for the owner. Anyone that owns 20% or more need to know phone number, email address, physical address, the owner's birthday and city of birth, tax numbers, social security number on the owners, and the employment ID number on the business if it has one, bank name, account number, and routing number of the bank. And you must make sure that the name on the bank account matches the name of the business that you listed as the name on the application. I had a client today that had changed her name, but she didn't change a name on her bank account, and now her money has bounced back. So you don't want that to happen. And when this initially came up, they were talking about in the CARES Act about a $10,000 advance for every business. And if that is not exactly what they are receiving. It's up to $10,000, that's the cap. It's $1,000 per employee and up to $10,000. And if you're a sole proprietor, the owner counts as an employee as well. And in some cases, the K-1, if you're a partnership and you pay self-employment tax or social security tax on the K-1, in some cases it can be included, but not all cases. And so that's very important to understand about that. I spoke to the SBA just minutes before this meeting, and the date to reopen this application is not been set yet. They're trying to go through the backlogs and get that cleared up before they open it, so they'll know where they stand financially on how many applications they can accept. The Small Business Development Center is there helping people. Feel free to call our office if you need help at 409-984-6530, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. And so that is the portion I want to cover. But I do want to say that that there is a chance that this disaster loan may not open back up. And so that is a concern of mine. And so you need to look at other options as well. And hopefully, I believe that someone else is going to be speaking about the PPP loan. They'll explain to you that's another option. You can apply for both. That's all I have on that topic.
You had a long list of items that you'll need for these applications. Where could someone find those items, a list of those on, let's say, online?
It is, they can go to the disaster loan application. It's just at sba.gov, and at the very top there's a gold banner and it says COVID-19 resources, and you can click on that and it will give that to you. Or they can call me and I'll email them. I just copy it, paste it, and email it to various people.
Thank you, Linda.
A good question, Stuart. And Linda, thank you for the information. So people, we have these resources available through your chamber. So if you need any more information, that number was there, and I'll get Linda to repeat that as we close so you can have a moment to jot that down. Next person I'd like to introduce is Blaine Callier. So Blaine is from the First Financial National Bank, and he'll have some information that he'll want to share also. Blaine.
Thank you, Randy. And thank you, Linda, for everything you've done. Linda and everyone at the Small Business Development Center has been a great referral source for us and reference for us. We've used them a lot. So what I'm going to talk about today is the PPP loan, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. It's a loan that is out there for small business owners for your payroll expenses. What you qualify for is up to 2.5 times your average monthly payroll. So we base it off of your 2019 payroll. If you were in business a full year in 2019, if you were not in business a full year of 2019, we base it off your average of your January and February 2020 payroll. So for example, in 19, if your average monthly payroll was $10,000, you would qualify for $25,000. The program is meant for you to keep your employees on your payroll, keep them paid. It's meant so they're not, you don't have to lay them off. They don't have to go file for unemployment. If they have already filed for unemployment, it's meant for them to get back on your payroll. Basically, the government says, "Hey, we're going to help out. We're going to float your payroll for the next 8 weeks." You can how to apply. What I would recommend is contacting your bank, who you currently bank with, and either they can assist you or they will refer you to someone that can. Generally, you will, if you apply through your bank or through a bank, you apply through them. They will give you a list of documentations that they need. Majority, all banks are requesting the same things. We're requesting your quarterly payroll tax forms from 2019, a payroll register, a current payroll register, and there's a few other. You can get your 2019 tax returns or your 2019 profit and losses. You can also include your benefits in there. You can include retirement benefits that are employee paid and then or employer paid, and also retirement benefits also. These loans are not grants. However, they can be forgiven. They are not automatically forgiven. It is up to the business owner. It is up to the borrower to apply for forgiveness. There are still some uncertainties on how that is going to pan out and what all is going to be asked for when they get ready to apply for forgiveness. But they will forgive up to 8 weeks of your payroll. Whatever your loan amount is, 75% of it has to be used for payroll. You can also use the money for rent expense, for mortgage interest, and for your utilities cost. But at least 75% of the loan has to be used for payroll. What I would recommend is keep very good documentation. From the day you get your loan, you want to document the number of you that you haven't laid anybody off. Document, all of your payroll from the day you get it. Let's see what else. Other things besides the PPP loan that I want to talk about or bring up. Number one is we've seen a lot of fraud. In general, fraud is very high. It's very bad right now. Banks worldwide, we have seen a lot of SBA economic injury loans. We've seen a lot of PPP loans come through. We've seen a lot of fraud associated with them. For instance, I had a customer yesterday that received, he got his PPP money last week or week before last, and he received an email yesterday from Dropbox that said, "Your PPP loan with SBA has been processed. Please click on this Dropbox link to view your transfers." And it was 100% fraud. So I would be very cautious. When you're getting emails that are not from your banker, it can be very, very dangerous. Another thing that I'd like to, bring up is not related to PPP, but then it is related to the PPP loans, is every small business, you need to have a good relationship with your banker. There's a lot of good local banks in this area. The better, like they say, you need to have a good banker, a good accountant, and a good attorney, and a good insurance agent, Stuart.
Thank you, Blaine.
But you need to, that goes a long way. There's, like I said, there's several good bankers, several good local banks in the area. And there's a lot of good tools associated with that the banks are offering that you can use during these downtimes that can help you out. I would take advantage of all the tools your bank has to offer. Online banking, ACH, there's remote deposit, which is basically where you can, scan your check, deposit your check sitting at your desk. There's a a number of products that small businesses can use that I would recommend you take advantage of. Besides that, I believe that's all I have. Questions, Randy?
Blaine, at this time I don't, but Stuart, have you got anything to add to it? I think you covered it
No, it's
well.
just that, Blaine, we had talked briefly yesterday about how some people have complained about the timeliness of the process, and we identified one of the culprits of that is inadequate or incomplete documentation. And you touched on it, but I can't emphasize it enough. I run into that in my industry as well. These institutions want to either make you the loan or sell you their insurance or do whatever it is and get on with their lives as well. In order to do that, they have to have the documentation. They simply can't get it done without it having properly documented. So everything a small business owner can do to help make Blaine's job busier or whoever your banker's job easier is going to inure to your benefit. So I just encourage people, and if you're having some difficulty, Linda and the chamber have resources available that can help you work up a payroll report if you don't have one. Maybe develop a profit and loss for you if you haven't worked one up for the year. Those are resources that are readily available and usually cost free.
And can I add to that, please? The CARES Act is also giving the Small Business Development Center some funds for me to hire a lending specialist part-time. So I will have additional help coming on in about probably 6 weeks once we do our interview process and find someone. So I look forward to having that. So we'll have some extra help to help the businesses as they're trying to recover.
That's good information, Lynn, and I appreciate that. So we want to thank our two people on the panel, both Linda and Blaine. Thank you for the information you provided. So kind of moving on, with the governor's recommendation and what's been put in place, the opening of 25% of your retail or restaurants, I know people are excited. I mean, it's been a tough time for all of our members and our businesses in the area. So a couple of things that we've been doing at the manufacturing sites and all that, and things to remember. Basically, before you open, you're pre-sanitizing before you open, and we can't stress it enough to make sure you do your cleaning before you open your doors and get people in. Also, remember you have 25% of your people back in a couple of weeks. That number will go up. You may want to look at doing a team A and B split. There's no need to have your whole staff there. If you're a small place only has 2 people, it's different. But if you have a staff of 15 or 20, do you need them all? So you want to kind of minimize their exposure. So you may want to look at doing a team A and a team B or team C split and minimize your people. One, to keep enough there to maintain your business. Do you need those extra people? And last is to keep the continuous cleaning going. Daily cleaning, I can't stress the importance. The last thing anybody can afford is to open their doors and a week later you have a positive case where you have to shut the doors back. Even if it doesn't turn out positive, you're going to get blasted on social media. It'll be all over the place, and before you know it, you have no business. So yes, you want to get open. Take precautions to do it right so you remain open, because I'd hate to see anybody get their doors open, start bringing some money into their bank account, and then have to close back again. So I had a few other things, Stuart, that I'll let you talk about also.
All right. Well, thank you, Randy. First of all, just as a small businessman myself, I am delighted you're interested in getting back up and running. I can't make a living without you making a living. It's a relationship we have to get going. We all feed off of industry in one fashion or another, but the small business has to get back up and running. I'm delighted that you're interested in doing so. Some of the things we're doing here at my business that we're looking at is we handle money, and money, as we all know, is not the cleanest of things. So I started doing some investigation, and while most of my clients are using credit cards or checks, some still want to use cash. I found out, first of all, this made me feel a little better, that the banks have been sanitizing the cash since this past February. When they run it through their system, they put it under ultraviolet light and heat and help sanitize it. So that improves things. But of course, as soon as somebody touches it, you're going to need to keep it clean again. So when you're handling the cash, the good news is the virus does not transfer to you by skin contact alone. You would have to touch your face, which I do quite often. So I keep a bottle of this handy, this little hand sanitizer. It's made up here in Beaumont, Lavoie and Sons, and I just have to keep it handy. Otherwise, I am going to touch my face, and then I'm probably going to transfer something I don't want to. On the options of not handling cash, there are people that say no, we just don't take it. There are those that say we only take credit cards. If you don't have a credit card machine, you might want to consider getting one. You can get with your local bank for that. But there are also independent vendors who offer credit cards with differing terms than what you'll find typically at a bank, and you may find that more to your business's needs. Finally, there are vendors out there if you need to check checks over the phone. There are those that can help you with that process. Blaine alluded to it earlier, but basically it's a common sense process. I put up a barrier like you've seen at the HEBs, where there's a plexiglass between my front receptionist and the customer as they exchange gifts. These are prudent measures we've done, as Randy have suggested. The cleaning staff has really stepped it up a notch, and they're going to continue to do that each and every time they come here until we're told that it doesn't need to happen anymore. In the area of social distancing, I think we've all gotten pretty good. Our radars are working rather well. If you get within about 10 feet of me, I start looking at you like, get away. So, of course, some people say I did that before this event, but my suggestion is on this: in the work environment, try to establish areas for each employee. That's easier said than done in some cases. I have an office environment. Each one of my employees can go into an office. We used to have an open door policy. Now we're going to have a closed door policy. Within open format type of retail establishments, if you're serving customers, I've seen some really creative work done with PCV pipe and shower curtains to establish a quarantined off area for each employee to be able to conduct their business. I think if you'll just look around with the vendors that you're going to be doing business with personally and have been over the last week and the coming week, you're going to see a lot of really creative ideas on how to conduct business and still maintain a safe operating environment for everyone involved. Lastly is the employee issue. As I mentioned earlier, I have a small operation. There's 7 of us here. We have one employee who has had symptoms demonstrated last week that will be tested today. So it's an issue for my agency. Another one of my employees went and visited her last weekend. So we'll have at least 2 employees that are going to be out until the results of the test are received. But let's say you do have an employee that tests positive. What do? Well, obviously, if they've tested positive and they're having symptoms, they're not at work. Hopefully, they're under the care of healthcare providers. But if they're not having any symptoms, they still need to not be at work. The governor's recommendations are for 7 days. If you have a positive test but to have demonstrated no symptoms, you can go back to work in 7 days. That doesn't say you must have them back in 7 days. It just says they can come back to work in 7 days with some special accommodations made. If an employee or you want to kind of self-diagnose before you go back to work, the CDC site has a wonderful site self-diagnosis tool. Go to cdc.gov, and the employee self-test is really a easy walkthrough that may be something you want to incorporate into your policies. And I probably should have started with that. All of these processes, when it has to do with employees, need to be established as a part of policy. Just because we have this coronavirus event does not exclude us from employment practices requirements, as well as for HIPAA requirements. We do need to maintain our employees' health confidentiality, while at the same time also keeping our other employees up to date on risks that are associated with the environment they are in. Also, there's some OSHA considerations for the for some of the more industrial operations. I believe that's all I have on the notes right now, but I'm sure there's some questions that will come up with this. So I'll stop and see if anybody has anything they'd like to know more specifics about.
Hey, Stuart, I appreciate that. So we had a few questions that were posed email when Raquel sent this notice out. So I'm going to go through a few of those. So, and I will pick on our panel for a few of these to answer. So question number one, I've applied for small business loan from my bank recently, and what is timing to receive funds? So Blaine, can you expand on that some?
So generally with our bank, for example, from the date you apply, it generally takes about, assuming we have all of your supporting documents that go with it that we need, all of your payroll registers, your 941s, your tax returns, whatever we may need, as well as the complete application. It takes about 3 days for it to fund. So if you apply, for example, on Monday, we're generally funding those on Thursday. The holdup on our end has been just getting the documentation from the customers. They may apply, and then it may take them 3 or 4 days a week to get us the documentations that they need. It's the customers, it's the borrower's responsibility to determine their payroll amount. However, it's the banks that we are calculating to make sure your calculations are correct. So we have to have those documentations in order to do that before we submit it to SBA.
Hey, Blaine, I appreciate it. Good information for everybody. I think the most important thing is have accurate data and a complete package to you.
Yep.
Okay, question number two. Some of this in the governor's thing. So Stuart, I'm going to pass it to you. Is any idea how long the 25% customer level will remain in effect? I know there's some different factors from just a straight answer, but Stuart's done some research on this also.
Well, they have, Randy, and right now it's tentatively scheduled for May 18th to bump up to phase 2, which would allow for a 50% occupancy rate. Although the governor did tease us a bit, stating that he is not precluding himself from making announcements before the May 18th date, which makes me hopeful that he, depending on what we see from this phase 1, may move that date up somewhat a little earlier, I hope. And no, there's no phase 3 talked about at this time. They think phase 2 is where they want to get before they even discuss that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Stuart. So next question I had, this is a pretty good one. Does anyone have leads on where I can procure masks and other sanitary products?
Randy, I can't hear you. Can anybody hear him?
How about now? Technology.
I think his microphone's up, Randy.
I think your microphone needs to go down.
Yep. Oh, there it goes. Okay, sorry about that. I had another phone call I had to take. Thanks, Raquel, for keeping me straight. So the thing is, where can I procure products and supplies, masks, those type of things? I've had 500,000 masks on order for 4 weeks, and I've yet to see the first one come in. I've had suppliers go as far as Oklahoma with their truck to pick up a load that was dedicated to them, only to find out that the distributor sold them to somebody else. So there is a lot of that going on. I hate to say it, there's price gouging and those type of things. You know, we have people in our own chamber that do have supplies. I can't say everybody has a good supply chain. So the person you've used all the time may be in a position not to supply it to you now. So if you're really needing it for your industry, you may need to reach out to 3 or 4 different people. And I've had to do that along with my primary folks. I mean, so we have the local people in our chamber, from Fallows International to Sanitary Supply in Beaumont, Motion Industries, Total Safety, DXP, Gopher, also people to supply you labor to go in there and clean your places, from Mid-America to KT Maintenance. We have those people out there that are available to supply manpower. I will say the supply chain for things like hand sanitizer. There's a company on Proctor Street Extension, Echo Works, that I've probably bought 300 gallons from. They're blending it there. The price is very reasonable, and it's sitting on a shelf right now. So use some of the local companies we have where possible. But just to pass it on, the supply chain is extremely tight right now. Also, another question. How do you handle the customers that do not want to follow our recommended distancing rules? Good luck with that one. So
Well, let
my
me take
thought
that
is,
one.
yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
Yes, I'll take that one. I reserve the right to choose my customers, and I may have to exercise that more than I have in the past. I've found that everyone has been extremely cooperative when you explain it to them, but sometimes some need more explaining than others. So I've taken the position, and I've assured my staff if they feel uncomfortable, safety is the primary consideration for our operations.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Stuart. I mean, the way I look at it, is it worth losing one customer versus shutting down your entire
Yeah.
location because somebody infected your site? So it's a common sense thing, but it's one where it's going to be out there. So those are our questions we had for the day. Kind of going through it. Remember, your chamber's been here for 120 years. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. The staff of Pat and Raquel, Joe, and Paige, they've done a great job. I want to thank Stuart, Blaine, and Linda for participating today. I want to thank all our business partners, all of our members of the chamber here today that were a part of this. And I think as this goes on, it's a good way to spread information. Reach out to your chamber. They're the ones that are there for you. And I think they can, if they don't have the answer, they have the resources to get that answer for you. So in closing, a couple things I've been thinking about through a while. This is a difficult time. It's kind of one of those things where I look at it as, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Yesterday is not ours to recover, but tomorrow is ours to win or lose. So you can take that, keep your heads up, stay safe. That is the main thing for everybody. And I look forward to when we're back at our meetings together, face to face. Like Stuart says, I think we're going to respect social distancing a little bit more. So there's going to be more knuckle bumps or elbow bumps versus handshakes for a while. But I'm okay with that as long as our membership and our people and our families are safe.
Yeah.
So with that, that is all I had today. And I want to thank everyone for participating.
Thank you, Randy.
All right. Thank you, guys.